Hey guys, for those of you that don't know, I just launched a podcast called False Advertising. Basically, the premise of the show is to take a look at things in our modern day world that we may have preconceptions about, and we aim to clarify and rectify that. The reason this is happening now is because I've had to convert my online platform on Twitch, which used to be used for DJing and music sets, into something different. There's a lot of drama going on with Twitch and the music industry, and unfortunately, it's coming down on streamers, so I've had to transition. So, seeing that we had under a week to put this together, think of this episode as kind of a preview as we start to get into the motion of things. But I'm pretty excited, and I think you'll have a good time too. Consider checking us out every Monday at 9:30 EST. And thank you as always. Okay, welcome to False Advertising. This is the show that aims to dispel misconceptions of modern day society. I'm Labria, and joining me is my co-host Donovan.
Was good.
This is our episode -1 because we'll have a real script in the coming futures. But yeah, we wanted to open today's show kind of on some misconceptions about love in the media, kind of in society, and the weirdness of roles and double standards. And I think the biggest example of that right now is the whole Johnny Depp scandal. What do you know about the news around that, Donnie?
So I'll be honest with you, I was pretty new to this. My celebrity news intake is so limited. Like through quarantine, I remember at the start I was on top of everything. Like all quarantine, like all news. I was like, bro, I need some like hints of the outside world. And then as we got later into quarantine, I'm like, I don't give a shit what other people.
Just hide
So
away.
this was yeah. Like literally, like I don't give a shit what these people are doing. But no. So this was pretty like new to me. I was just like reading up on like the odds and ends of it. I knew about the original court case, like way back when the stuff like the trial was happening, like the original trial.
Yeah.
Like I'd seen that and I was like, damn, that's ass. More like Hollywood. Just I'm sad, bro. That's like, come on, Pirates of the Caribbean, like, bro, Johnny
Yeah.
Depp, you can't like,
See,
homie.
That's exactly like that's how it came to my attention, right? Like at first I heard Pirates of the Caribbean got canceled, and then I heard that you know he was getting uncast from the Crime of Grindelwald or whatever, which was kind of a big deal because the court case itself wasn't actually against his ex-wife. It was against a newspaper about defamation. Right, like this whole thing started over the newspaper basically calling him a wife beater, and instead of just ignoring it, he was like, "Oh well, I'm gonna go and attack that." And the weirdest thing is, UK law is set up, so it's not the same as it would be in North America, where you're kind of innocent until proven guilty. When something like defamation happens, it's kind of on the responsibility of the accused to prove their innocence, which I thought was weird.
Huh.
So basically, from what I understand, is there wasn't enough reasonable doubt for him to clear his name, so the newspaper went ahead and was able to hold that. And then what is pretty fucked up is about a month later, these tapes came out where basically Amber Heard is just talking about all of the things that have been going on behind the scenes. So like there's some quotes here that I've got, and basically she's talking about how she hit him in the face, but it doesn't really count because it's not a punch, and like she's been quoted to like be throwing pots and pans at him, and ever since this has kind of come back through the news, there's literally been no backlash for her. So Johnny Depp's lost probably maybe his whole career at this point, and yeah, she's sitting pretty. So I just thought that was a little bit too bad.
Yeah, it's crazy, eh? Like, I guess we're in that era too, where it's like you just gotta be careful with shit. Like stuff's just not okay, and it's like a double-edged sword in a lot of ways. I don't even know where I sit on the opinion of it, where it's like it's objectively wrong, right? Like the shit that like a lot of this stuff is like bad, and people shouldn't do this shit. But we're getting more and more into this place where, especially like just like social media and like internet accountability, you have to be like so careful about mistakes because of cancel culture and how much that's growing.
Yeah.
Like mistakes are like brutal now. Like I'm not trying to, like I don't want to like mistake for a minute, then I'm like, oh no, Johnny Depp's innocent. Like this man should like we're chill. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, we're also at a place where like, yeah, he's done being a public figure. Like that was
Yeah.
his livelihood, and he's sorry, homie. Like you messed up in the wrong place, and it got tracked down.
Yeah.
And it's yeah, it's whack. And even like for a lot of people, right? Like we had that whole like when we had the whole like Me Too movement and
Mm-hmm.
everything too, where it's just like I don't know, like where's that kind of like line of like people need to be held accountable. And in a way it's like really good that we have this tool now that like we're actually leveraging social media because so many people are taking it for granted and using it like social media interactions are just kind of being handed off as like me and somebody hanging out on the street where it's like if we say something to each other and nobody else hears it, it's whatever, right? Like
Right.
who actually knows what went down in that
Mm-hmm.
interaction. But now we have like these records and stuff that are coming up people are using.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's a
It's a wild world out there. It makes you feel like, you know, partially you're always under a state of surveillance. But what I think is interesting is a lot of the times I don't think people wait until, you know, the dust settles, and
mm,
and that's kind of the problem here, especially in like in a role like this where neither of them are like overly innocent, but you know he took the first fall, and his career is already over, and hers hasn't been touched yet. I mean that could change in the future, but it's just it's a lot.
it's just so explosive. That's the piece of it that like kind of like leaves me I don't know, like leaves that like weird taste in my mouth, I
Mm-hmm.
guess for lack of a better word. As it's like this shit's wrong. And it's good that we're being like people should be held accountable
Right.
for the shit that's like that they're doing. And like yeah, like you shouldn't be able to get away with it. And like no amount of fame and I'm glad that now like people even in those positions of power, you hear all like that crazy shit. Where it's like power dynamics and all kinds of stuff that like
Mm-hmm.
people take advantage of. But it's like at the same time, where do we draw the line of like is the punishment of like I don't know, did Johnny Depp deserve to lose his career? Like that's like a big thing, right? Like is that a risk that we now associate? Like you just need to know now this is what you're getting into as a public figure. This is
Right.
just one of the bona fide occupational requirements. You just need to your public figure needs to be immaculate and you need to know that. Is it like how do you even gatekeep because it's so weird, right? Like there's no way to really control how people's outbursts affect these kind of
Right.
things.
Like Chris Brown came back from that.
Yeah,
Just because
exactly.
he's in the music scene, right? And I think almost any like rapper or you know musician who's been accused or you know convicted just kind of bounces back. But at the same time, you know, if you're in a completely different industry, it's like you get blacklisted, and that's what's
Yeah.
crazy to me is you could be in a different line of work and it doesn't matter. Like everyone forgets in like 3 years, and that's wild.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think that
That's the
kind of
crazy one.
yeah, I think that kind of blends into like expectations in general. Like I think people are kind of like romantically, you know, portrayed a certain way when you're big, right? So like you know, if you're a musician, it's like oh, it's just part of your story. But if you're a public figure because you're an actor, it doesn't matter.
Hmm.
But I was actually talking about something similar with a couple of friends a while ago, because at the height of you know our in between COVID waves, where we had like that like you know like we were in like the yellow zone, right? So we were able to have social
Mm-hmm.
gatherings, and we had a party where this one guy got basically he got shooed out real quick for being a little bit handsy with some of the girls, and then at the same time there was a woman who was probably doing things that was like twice as bad as him, and nobody cared. So like I walk in and I'm hearing about how this guy you know was like a little bit touchy, a little bit grabby, and like everyone's just throwing him like total piece of shit. And then I watched like a girl come by 5 minutes later and she's like reaching down people's pants without even saying hello to them, and I was like, wow, it's yeah. I think there's like a whole bunch of like expectations in romance that just kind of get thrown out the window. You know, depending on the way you look at it, your actions are not always received the same.
Yeah, no, I think that's so true. Like just a lot of the You kind of just see that behavior, I feel like, in general, just in a lot of places where um yeah, like a lot of times just like depending on like some people it's expected like, oh, even like just like that like boys will be boys mentality, like even
Hmm.
that just like all of that kind of stems from like we have a lot of those, like you said, those expectations. And like people just depending like in all these contexts we're kind of just like stuck to like, oh, this is weird or this is fine. And like depending on who it is doing the certain action, we react differently.
Yeah, I think a lot of this stems with like the things we're told as children. Like if you look at the original kind of idea of like what dating is like, is it's actually really toxic. Like I don't know about you, but I was kind of grown up with the old school mentality somehow like ingrained in me. Like the guy is supposed to provide. He's supposed to literally take care of every single thing, and if he
Mm,
doesn't, that makes him inadequate. When you think about it, like if you see that in the social relationships now, you view those relationships as really toxic because it's not give and take, and I don't know where that came from.
we were trained to be simps from the beginning.
You heard it here first. But no,
God
but like
damn.
it's true, right? Like as a kid, I was like, okay, like I need to take someone out and pay for dinner and all of these things, even if I'm like 14. Like this doesn't mean I'm like 25, 35, have a job and like finding a suitor. It's weird to me, man. Like nobody has a job at those ages, but like yet you're supposed to like fill in those roles.
Hmm. It's so true. Yeah, I know. Like, that's a really, really interesting one. I've noticed as well. Just like the dynamic of what people are expecting, or like, I don't know if it's demographic or if it's the kind of people. Um, but yeah, no, I notice a lot of the like. There's like that media portray. Did it come from media? I don't even know. I've kind of just like that's my default. I just kind of assume I saw it in movies and that's why. But I don't want to give it a name yet. But like you said, just that like that I don't know, patriarchal or whatever, that very like
Mm-hmm.
man providing, take care, like does everything kind of like breadwinner, I guess that's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Like that breadwinner role in a relationship in exchange for whatever. I guess you expect like housewife breadwinner. That's kind of the
Right.
natural progression of that stereotype.
Mm-hmm.
Um but yeah, and like where did that came from is actually such an interesting question because yeah, I always just chalked up to, like yeah, fucking media ruining my dating expectations. But it's so different from like I don't know that I've ever gotten that yeah, I don't know that I've ever personally been very close, like or had like a friend that was a girl that was like super into that. Is the weirdest thing. Like all of my friends that I've known, at least the people, and that's why I say like does it come down to the kind of people that I'm becoming friends with, and that's just a reflection of my own personality. But like all the friends that I'm like super close with, all the girls that I was super close with, even the guys that I've been close with, none of them are like, bro, I need like a cute uwu girl that's gonna be like subservient and like make me sandwiches and shit. Like everybody's like, I want a partner, right? Like
Yeah.
we're in
Right.
this together.
It's very unrealistic, but it's still just kind of like the default image. And I think it's
Hmm.
weird is because when you see those things happen on social media, the comment section is almost kind of split depending on what happens, right? Like,
Hmm.
I don't know how many times you've seen like lately. There's like this trend going around where someone like will get a friend or they'll pay someone to like test their boyfriend or girlfriend, and like regardless of what happens, you just almost like 50% of the people are like, oh man, that person's such a piece of shit, and the other half are like, oh well, like why did we test this person in the first place? That was kind of toxic. And it's really strange. It's like I think people almost care more about shock value when looking at relationships from the outside than they do about the actual like strength and quality of it.
Hmm. It's interesting you bring that up, and I almost wonder if this is like an artifact of like entertainment, more like like entertainment versus like an actual relationship. Like, um, you think about like I don't know, like the Gossip Girl vibe, where it's like I want to know the tea about all my friends. I
Yeah.
want to know like I
Mm-hmm.
want to know the shit that's going down in other people's lives. But when it concerns me, I need everything to be like, you know what I mean? Like, there's
Yeah,
that
yeah,
difference of
exactly.
and like it's almost like we've kind of capitalized on that nature of like how like fucked up can we present relationships to get people interested, because like nobody like we can't sell this super happy couple to people.
No, it's true.
Like look at them being in love. They're just gonna be sad and jealous. But we can sell this like toxic shit where like look, this person's going behind your back to like plot this triangle and like has like a protractor out, seeing if like the angle this dude's looking is gonna make her like
Yeah. I like even on a micro scale, I think that's true with some friend groups, and I think this is really funny. It's like almost if you're not in this relationship, and you know that they're just gonna do it regardless. I find some people almost want it to be toxic just because like they're gonna find entertainment value out of it. You know, when it comes to them, like they're looking for like exactly what they want, but the second that someone else gets a relationship, they're like, oh, what's going on over there? He didn't call you last night, eh? Wonder what's going on. And it's weird, right? It's really weird. But yeah,
man.
I think dating in the world today is definitely different than what it was like a year ago, 2 years ago, and it continues to be different. Especially under COVID. Like being single in COVID is like the strangest thing ever because I've watched everybody kind of do one of two things, at least the ones who are vocal about it, and it's the people that like we're in a relationship and are kind of living together in COVID. They've either said, okay, you know what, this is it, life is short, we're getting hitched, like this is the plan. And then it's the other half is like, you know what, I'm gonna just do me, like full nihilism, it doesn't matter anymore. And I was kind of curious what your dating kind of experience has been since the pandemic hit.
Yeah. I've been in a relationship for wow, I should know this. Like a year and a half, call it that.
Right.
Coming up on like 19 months this month, I think. I don't remember. That's bad. Now it's recorded. Anyway,
She's gonna watch this
but
and
yeah,
beat
no,
you.
yeah, exactly. No, but no, I've been my girlfriend Candace. I've been dating her since March of last year. So we got together like basically it was kind of sad actually. Our like anniversary just got fucked by COVID was basically like the
Yeah.
most tragic thing. Like we had like a big anniversary plan and we got like fucking like bitch slapped by it.
Damn.
And yeah, that was kind of rough. That was a unfun month. But yeah, I guess like for me, we had already kind of had a year to kind of like figure out. And I mean, by that point, like a lot of people say, like the first year is the most important
Right.
in a lot of things. So it's like the fact that we lasted 12 months already was kind of like a good sign. And
For
kind
sure.
of already like we're definitely like already we're already like very comfy and very in that like do nothing together kind of lifestyle. I guess it kind of lended itself to the kind of people that we are. We're like both, we like our fun, but we also like really like our chill time.
Yeah. No.
And it was
that's
good
fair.
to know because like that we could have fun chilling. And that was kind of I think the thing that made it most important for us. So in a lot of ways COVID changed very little.
Okay.
It's kind of starting to drag on us now just because it's like more and more it's like we do literally nothing. Like it feels like we're doing nothing at some points.
Right.
Like especially because it used to be the thing of like we're perfectly content to just like chill and do nothing, and then once a month we're gonna go plan a big date. Like we're gonna plan it, we're gonna do the whole thing. I'll bring my my parents' nice car, I'll pick her up, we'll dress up, we're gonna go to a nice dinner, go and do something after. And that was kind of like the ebb and flow of it. Like we always had really nice like big planned dates, whether it was like a nice dinner or like we went and explored downtown Toronto.
So you guys would go like the extra mile even though you didn't need to type of deal.
Yeah, exactly. Like it was kind of like a nice specialty. Like, we never had to, but we thought it was like important to keep like
Right.
dating or like do like the I don't know what you call like a honeymoon phase date
Okay.
of like at least usually like on our monthly anniversary is kind of what we would do. Like whatever every month we would just try to book one
Yeah.
day where it's like let's imagine we were doing like a first or second date and we were still trying to get to know each other.
Okay.
And
So you just kept the
Blo-
motions going.
yeah, exactly. So obviously a lot of that stopped when COVID hit.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, like for things that had like changed, it's just a very like, I guess it's almost like it's like more best friend
Huh.
than it is like relationship almost in a lot of ways. I think it's kind of been the way that which is, I mean, I don't want to say that's a solution. I think it's introduced its fair share of like like issues as well. Like it wasn't a perfect solution, but I think that's kind of just what mainly changed for us is we kind of started treating like we just became like much more like broy, I guess, for like, you know what I mean, just kind of like very casual about it.
So
And like, yeah,
has that been taxing on the romance itself then?
at times, yeah, like we're still kind of figuring out what that means to like long term sustain in this, because I think we kind of just took the assumption of like whatever, we can just be like we can just enjoy the fact that we enjoy each other's company and enjoy spending time together, and that we are friends and we enjoy the friendship, and just kind of like hang out together, do whatever together. We play games together, and it's like, but at a certain point, I know it definitely like felt on both of us. Where it's like, oh, am I being like? It feels kind of like, do I not mean anything anymore? Like, what's the point? Like, you know, like, and like those kind of like feelings start to creep up because the romance is important, right? Like, it is a relationship for a reason.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Um, dude, yeah, I think COVID has definitely changed the way a lot of people look at relationships. Like on the single end, I've seen some guys have like what I would say is like they've really blossomed because there's the first there's like the first 6 months, right, where nobody really left the house, and then as things started to open up again, I would just see the like some people that would just be like the quietest people that you've ever met, and they're just like just bringing people home all the time. It was crazy. It was crazy, man. And it's funny, right? Because like the whole courtship that you expect, that like society tells you is kind of, you know, important, was just thrown out the window because people just stopped caring. And I think that like dating has kind of taken like this negative turn now, where there's almost like no longer a middle ground until things get back to normal, where it's almost like people are looking to like kickstart their lives and be very serious, or they're looking for absolutely nothing, which is a strange place to be in your 20s.
Oh my god.
Right? I think in your 20s is like usually where you'd be finding the middle ground, figuring yourself out, and now I don't see really any of that anymore. And
Yeah,
it's
that's a
just
really
very
good way.
strange.
That's a really good way to put it. I feel like it's like, yeah, like in a lot of things, I feel like I'm being forced to choose extremes.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's very difficult to coast right now. Like it's very difficult to kind of just like try and find a rhythm. There's very little rhythm. I'm either doing something or I'm not.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I can feel that. I can feel that like even in just like my general lifestyle where it's like I made the decision to get up and be productive today and I did something. That's awesome. And then tomorrow if I don't do that, like nothing's going to happen. Like everything is really just on yourself. And like both are taxing
Mm-hmm.
where it's like all the like the go like I need to do something every single day, and then the days where you do nothing and you feel like shit at the end, like
Yeah, no, it's funny. Like I guess let's segue into like being an adult here, because we did talk a little bit about how like when we were kids, you kind of think that like when you're like in your 20s, like you hit like 25, you're like, oh, of course I'm gonna have it figured out. You know, there's the picket white fence, there's the steady girlfriend that'll be the wife soon, and then you know we're looking at the car. It's just crazy, right? And then you hit adulthood and you realize like, oh, I'm still a child, dude. Like
yeah.
I can't believe that like in Roman society, people our age were like the elders. Like, can you imagine running the entire like empire at this age and just like, yes, of course, I know all of the political situations.
Yeah, damn, bro, you haven't died of like fucking dysentery yet.
You
Let's
must be
fucking
the
put you in
smartest
office.
person around.
Yeah.
Right? Like, oh man, so many things are different than what I expected them to be. Like, for instance, like bills and taxes, I thought were things that you would just kind of learn. Honestly, I get a bill, or like I'll get the occasional bill in the mail, and I just have to kind of like sit down and read it, and I'm like, I don't remember ordering. Is this a scam or is this legit? You know, it's honestly so true. Because I'll get the most like I got something from UPS and they're like, hey, we need you to pay like some kind of fee, and I'm like, I don't.
Duty, import,
Right,
tariff,
and I'm like,
whatever.
I don't remember ever using UPS. Why is this? Who used my name? Who used right? It's just it's a lot.
That's so funny. I feel like I think I've dodged a lot of the stress, um, because I haven't had to like actually live alone. I haven't actually had to like fully live alone yet.
Mm-hmm.
I had the like kind of the free trial run in uni when
Right.
I lived with my dorm mates. And then once COVID hit, I was like, "All right, see you guys. I'm moving back into my house. Like, I'm not fucking with rent. I'm not
Retreat
fucking
to
with
safety.
utilities. I'm not fucking with cooking. I'm not dealing with any of that shit. I'm gonna eat a night. I'm gonna have 3 warm cooked meals by my wonderful mother and father, and I'm gonna sit in my room." And I was kind of and yeah, like it was like crazy how I was like, wow, there's a lot of like responsibility that like I kind of forgot. Like it was like I don't know, like I had a little bit of anxiety at first, right? Where I'm like, oh yeah, shit, I need to pay like the internet bill, or I need to pay like this bill. Like, oh, I haven't done my grocery shopping yet.
Right.
I'm so spoiled. Like that was like the first couple months of quarantine. And now I'm so spoiled. On like I just go to the kitchen and there's always a full thing of milk. Like you know
Oh,
what I mean?
jeez, dude.
Like you go to the kitchen, you go open up the fridge, you're like, damn, look, there's some chicken curry that my dad made last night. Like, and I'm
Damn.
just like, that's for lunch, and it's
Yeah. No, for sure. And I think the funny thing is I expected, being an adult to be like to have all of the answers, and I think this is like the biggest problem I had growing up. If we kind of like segue into some of the more abstract stuff, is like I thought by the time that I would be an adult, I would know, right? For some reason, just as a kid, every adult in your life just seems to have the answers because they just want to share them with you. It's like, this is the truth. This is what's going on. You know, like whether
mm,
maybe this comes from growing up and going into like a Catholic school system, where you're just kind of forced with the answers. But like, dude, nobody knows, right? Like if everybody knew the answers, we wouldn't have like politics become the shit show it is, right? We wouldn't have like religious wars, and it's actually weird. Like you like for instance, in social studies class, they talked about how like democracy is the greatest thing that like has ever existed, and it's so orderly. And here I am looking at like CNN clips of just like the trashiest shit that I've ever seen, and like actual like presidential debates. And it just kind of makes me think that like, oh, you know, if we don't have like our government systems panned out, like how am I supposed to figure out like the existential crises that like are actually going to affect me for the rest of my life?
yeah,
I
man.
just thought they were gonna go away, and yeah, it's kind of strange. I think the thing that should be taught is that there are no answers to like the important questions, and the life mission is to figure those out, because I don't think anyone
Hmm.
like people talk about how education is flawed in the way that you don't know how to like thrive as a civilian, right? You don't know how to do your taxes, you don't know like how to invest properly, or like financial literacy. I also think that like discovering who you are and the answers that you're going to need for yourself are also like just as important.
Hmm.
But I mean,
Yeah.
what about you?
Um, I realized like how much of a like pragmatist, I guess. I don't know. I remember like I don't know. I always have these talks with my friends that are like taking philosophy classes. I had a lot of these discussions with peoples at like parties and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. And it's so
It's
funny,
just
like you know,
such like the most ironic thing, you know, like
I know
everyone's going to
oh, it's so
forget.
yeah, exactly. No. Like I was like everybody gets those breath requirements, right? You know, like you get your like you have to like force to take like one of your humanities and stuff like that, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I lucked out, or I scapegoated that when I took the program that I did, because it was like, all right, here's the required courses, take those, take your degree and get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, but it was so funny talking with like all my first year friends. You're like, oh yeah, I'm taking this first year intro to philosophy, and they have like all of the different like you know you got nihilism, you got all these, you got Socrates,
Right.
got all these different guys, and they all talk about basically, um, interestingly enough, like different mindsets to navigate basically these questions, which is kind of like what you said before, where it's like it is about finding out the answers to the like those questions don't go away.
Mm-hmm.
You just find a way to like how am I as a person going to deal with it?
Yeah, exactly. What
And
is your personal approach?
I find that really cool. And I found like those kind of discussions really cool, where it's like kind of like you said, right? Like a lot of people feel like even just like responses to quarantine, like there are some people that are like really really good in this kind of like environment
Mm-hmm.
are like super super go getter and are
For
like
sure.
very like I need to go and like do stuff. This is the time, or like they'll like double down on whatever they have currently. There's other people who are like, I'm gonna back the fuck out because it's uncertain, and I'm gonna like full like the other way, and like I'm gonna take me time.
Yeah. No,
And
for
it's like,
sure.
and neither one is a particularly like neither one is right. Like you can't really like neither one is wrong, neither one is right, neither like they're just choices. And I feel a lot of the like the biggest part about like becoming an adult for me in that regard was kind of just like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna like you're just making a choice is basically the most adult thing you can do. Like to be honest, like it's kind of like how those like you meet those adults that seem like they have all their shit together. They just made a choice.
No, it's true, right? Like that you set a bunch of rules, and then you just kind of go. Like I've definitely seen some people come out of quarantine where they're a little bit more like self-reflective, and I know a guy who literally has jumped from country to country to avoid quarantine. Like he'll just go. It's so messed up. He literally goes to the countries with the lowest restrictions and like spends a month there. And when they start considering, he moves. It's the craziest.
Wow, that's
Right, but like his like for whatever reason his personal truth is like, I don't want to deal with having any freedoms or liberties taken away from me, which is I understand, but it's interesting that like as a kid you think like all these people just have the answers, but it's more that like they've just accepted that this is the way that they're going to live their lives because it makes sense to them.
hmm. So I was just reading the chat. I was reading what like Misha said, and that's like
Mm-hmm.
really really true with just like even the whole it's a slightly less abstract and kind of segueing away, but it really made me think of like how much like Twitch and even just gaming culture in general has like grown, and just like there's so many people that I've interacted with in ways that I never thought I would. Like because of quarantine specifically, and like there I've always been like a pretty avid gamer. Like I spend a lot of time online and I spend a lot of time like playing games almost every single day. I had my group of friends that I'd be with, and like we'd play games. We'd log on, we'd be on Discord. What did we do? We went from like Xfire to Skype to like Mumble, TeamSpeak. Like we transitioned through the voice app, all the stupid like voice apps that you could talk on. And now I'm getting all these people, like all these friends that I only knew in like real life. Like all my friends that like I used to go dancing with, friends I had from university that I was like study partners with. And now like I'm playing Among Us with these guys. Like these are people I don't think I've ever like could have imagined talking to in a chat room online.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're just like online playing like Among Us, or playing like I even have a bunch of friends that play like Valorant and Genshin now,
Oh
Genshin
wow.
Impact. Like a bunch of people who just like never played games before. Valorant was their first online game.
Mm-hmm.
And like and there's just so many people, like old high school friends, some of my girlfriend's friends as well. X-Fire was OG. I'm glad there's somebody who remembers that. But yeah, no, like it's such a like cool experience that like COVID's kind of allowed us to have, and like Twitch communities and things like this as well, right? Where it's just it is really really cool
Thank you so
to
much for the
see, and
follow.
it's yeah, but it's like super super cool.
Yeah, I actually think that like the way that you would attack quarantine is definitely like it shows a lot about how you kind of want to live life and kind of how adaptable you are. I have made so many connections and friends just by saying, "Oh, well, my career's over. Let's move online." Right? Like effectively this is the second time now cuz like the first time things shut down I was like, "Oh, it's fine. I'll DJ online and I'll I'll hope that like Travi puts some clout on me," and people received it really well. And then Mixer shut down. We moved over to Twitch, and then the DMCA scariness, and I was like, well, I'm not DJing in person or online anymore, so I guess we're moving around. But like through the journey, I thought it was really cool to kind of just discover how like what you could do because like even though I'm not doing the same things anymore, it's a lot of the same skills. It's a lot of like networking. It's a lot of just like trying to provide content. Because the thing that I think is really, really, really important, and like this is just tangenting from everything, but it's like as a content creator, like it is very important that you be responsible with people's time, because regardless of what you're doing or making, if somebody's watching you or spending time with you even as a friend, is like you have a responsibility to like make sure that it is a positive experience, because like literally when someone spends time with you in person, watches your content, does whatever, it's like they're spending their existence, which is the only true resource somebody has on you. And it's like it's very powerful, especially when you realize that like what you like to do with your existence can change overnight, because like we all did things before COVID hit, and now here we are doing like a completely different lifestyle, similar in some ways, but we definitely have restrictions. And I just think it's important to note that.
No, I agree. That's a really, really cool mindset to have. I thought about that as well too. It was so interesting to see all the DJs and like personalities transition to Twitch. Like I don't know, it's just like you see the craziest things now, right? Like you see like, oh, we got like K-pop stars with offline TV. The other day I watched like Pokimane and some dude from a Korean band named Day 6. They're playing Among Us together. This was a while ago.
That's
Like,
crazy.
but you know what I mean? It's like, oh yeah, it turns out the Korean guy knows the Korean guy. His name's Disguised Toast. They're like friends because it's like, oh, popular people in the Asian community. He's like, yeah, I watched your shit growing up, man. That's sick. And they're all part of the same streamer group. So now it's like, and it's just, you see these crazy, crazy like intersections of different like groups that we never saw before, like T-Pain on Twitch playing Among Us, like
Yeah, Soldier Boy too now. It's crazy.
yeah, Soldier Boy is like, and you know, it's just so crazy. You never imagine it like this, and it's just, yeah, it's crazy. It's what people do, right? When given the opportunity to just kind of like how people take advantage of opportunities that are presented to them, and just kind of and it's interesting to see how they succeed, because so much of that like I don't know that like content creator is usually what we use for like Twitch and YouTube,
Right.
but so much of that overlaps with like the stuff that like DJs personalities do, because at the end of the day you're catering to a crowd, right?
Right.
Like you are developing an audience, and that's like the fundamental skill set that transfers over. It was really cool to see like how DJs use that, like especially DJs, because that's kind of what you do for a living. You're just in a room and you're like, this is what people want. You just do that, but you just express it through music.
Yeah, for sure.
And so seeing people do that in a different medium is really, really neat.
Yeah, and like you could tell a lot of them did it in different ways, where some people would like kind of almost have their own radio shows. Other people would just kind of like, you know, run theme nights and have parties like that. But I thought it was really funny. It's like I came to the realization of all of these expectations and like the responsibilities that were associated with it when I was just like overly high. So let me give you the context. I was at a birthday party. I was like, it was really small, obviously, and so it was like the night that I had to stream. So I like, we brought out the cake. We said happy birthday. I had a piece and I had it back, and Buddy was like, just so you know, that cake was an edible, and I didn't. And so halfway through my stream, I just like, I hit the intermission screen and I tried to keep going, and I was like, can't do it. Nope. Turned off. And then just like, I went into space, man. like it was, and it sounds really funny, but it was actually super scary at the time. I just like laid down and I was like, my consciousness just kind of dissolved. I was like, I'm me, but I'm like kind of not. And then it was weird. I had like these, we're getting really personal now, but we just kind of went in and I had these visions of like different people just living their lives. And I was like, yeah, the only thing you have is your time, and it is important to note that whatever you spend it on is inherently what you are giving value to, because you have a limited amount of it.
No, that's so true. This is I was reading Mr. Devious's stuff in the chat too, and it's like, this is another kind of crazy thing that is completely tangential, but like, it's crazy the impact you can have as like an individual. You know what like going kind of tying it all the way back to kind of what we opened with, and
Right.
just like accountability and like online accountability and this kind of stuff for your actions. Especially now, even like this, like, I wonder if it's just always been this way and now we're just aware of it because it's so much easier to keep tabs on people, or it's just like we're so much more aware of what people are doing because so much of it is kept track of. But like seriously, like people can do this stuff. Like I could just go out there and I could just be like, yeah, I have COVID,
And just sneeze on
and
everybody.
just sneeze on everyone, and that would just and can you imagine the panic that would cause? You know how much that would like amount to, and you just like it
It's
is wild how much like I don't know how much we take for granted in some ways. I guess that like
yeah, I think like
good
now,
nature. I don't. Yeah.
yeah, now has like really shown the power of an individual because it's tracked. Right? Like the times that we talk about the individual making any difference are the times where like a single person, goes into office, makes a decision, does a protest, or like does something crazy like some kind of crime. But now it's really wild to show that like being sick is literally a form of terrorism if you just decide to not adhere to the rules. And it really shows that every single person matters in a way that I think we've never shown before.
I agree. That's a really, really, yeah. No, like just the individuality of it, right? And and it's so like frustrating, I guess, to see how hard it is for us to, like, for that to come together and just like, can we please quarantine for 7 days, or like, can we actually quarantine
Yeah,
for like,
this is what's
yeah,
wild is if everyone actually stayed home for 2 weeks, it would be over.
yeah, literally, right? Like, which is why it's just like, holy,
Yeah, man. It like this is just getting more and more into like the patient zero stuff. Chad is really talking about like I guess this like case zero in Australia that caused another outbreak here. But it's true. It's honestly, unfortunately, the people that think that they can be that percentage that gets by and is extra lucky and is not, that causes like problems that they would never expect. Like just a couple people with this mentality is the reason that like my career is kind of postponed for another year, man.
honestly. And
Uh,
that's crazy. That's crazy to.
mhm.
But yeah, like we said, right? It's all about how do you deal with the opportunities presented to you? Cards you're dealt.
Yeah, for sure. Man, I kind of want to go back a little bit into the whole dating
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
because I didn't want this to turn into a COVID conversation, which it did, but I mean it's very relevant. But we were
Let's pull it
talking,
back. Let's pull it
yeah,
back.
let's pull it back because we were talking earlier about dating and the people that like used to care don't care, and the people that didn't care have started to. And I thought what's interesting is like where people get their personal taste of attraction or beauty.
Hmm.
Because something that like I've looked into is that people find like sometimes attraction is kind of what's familiar, rather than what's like objectively good. Because like a lot of like fashion and like scientific studies talk about symmetry is what's beautiful, right? But I think when you're talking about like a person and one-to-one interactions, it's about like probably something you're familiar with and like because you associate it with something else.
Complimentary. Yeah.
Which is weird because that's not always what's best for you. What's strange for me is like a lot of people in some of my friends' lives, like when they're going through dating, I find that they kind of have similar personalities, and I can kind of attribute that to other people in their life, like if they're siblings or parents that kind of um, have similar behaviors. But the question is like, does that transfer over if someone has like a negative upbringing, right? Like
Hmm.
I think sometimes what's weird is like what is familiar to me is when people are sometimes like unfortunately a little bit combative with me, because like not that I grew up in a bad situation, but like I was definitely like being the oldest child. I find you like get into a lot of confrontations, and so I find a lot of that is like the kind of personalities that I end up dating, even though like I know logistically that's not what's good for me. And I'm curious like what your experiences with stuff like that. Like when you look at like potential suitors and people that you're interested in, how do those personality traits and maybe appearance factors relate to the other people in your life?
Hmm. That's a tough one. Holy shit.
Yeah, no, I
I've
definitely just dropped
definitely.
the bomb.
Yeah, no. It's interesting though. It's interesting you bring that up. I've been incredibly fortunate. Um, I've only been in two serious relationships, or like two actual relationships I've only ever been in. This being the second one that I'm still currently in. And like both times, I feel like it was, and like they both times I had it, they all like obviously my last relationship ended for because I didn't think it was going to work out, or not. It was kind of mutual. We agreed it wasn't going to work out,
Hmm.
but it was still like I think we both benefited and grew from the time that we spent together. So I'm in like that very fortunate place where the relationships that I've been in have been very like beneficial for me. And I guess can kind of chalk that up to chance, maybe happenstance. Like I kind of tripped, fell, and like because I definitely looking back, I was like, wow, I didn't understand anything that was going on in my first relationship.
Right.
like, I was not anywhere near as like competent as I could have thought I was at the time
Hmm.
to actually know that I was setting myself up to learn anything or be in a good like I
Yeah.
really did just kind of like trip, stumble, and fall into like a good place to
No, and
be.
like that happens to people, right? Most people say that like the most amazing relationships in their life come when they're not looking, and then they literally just slip into it, and they're like, "Oh, perfect."
Yeah, honestly. And like I guess to kind of loop back, I give that context, kind of answer the actual question of like, I guess like in terms of like personality traits or things that I look for me, it was always like companionship or like friendship. Friendship was always, like I had always thought for myself that that was the most important thing. And I kind of learned through that first relationship that it was. Ugh.
Hmm.
And then kind of learned like as I went through, like dating and seeing other people where like because like between those two relationships there would have been like there was like a couple people that I like saw like we dated for like couple weeks month maybe like where we went out a couple times and then kind of at the end we're like yeah it's one way or the other we're like nah this isn't for me or like I'm gonna do me.
Yeah.
So and it was always like that like feeling of like companionship specifically like
Like the
if I
player in two
couldn't.
type of mentality.
Yeah, exactly. Like if I and it was so weird too. And I also wonder I was like worried for a while, I remember when dating, because I was fortunate the first girlfriend I ever had, the first person I ever dated, um, we had been friends for like all of high school. And
Hmm.
we dated in like my junior year until the end of high school. So I had like already had time to like meet this person and like get to know them in a non-romantic context, and we were already like friendly. And so we were already friends,
Hmm.
which makes that kind of prerequisite of like, oh, I'm gonna be friends with this, or like, you know what I mean? I'm dating somebody I'm friends with, and so the friendship kind of stayed, which made I think like, which is what helped that relationship, at least for me and for both of us,
Right.
helped it continue to like be good. It was just like it was kind of like the relationship was an add-on. It was like a bonus for the friendship and the companionship that was already there, or like an extension of it, not a bonus.
Hmm.
Um, so I was kind of worried for a while. I was like, huh, am I gonna need to like only date people I've known for like am I like am I like hindering myself basically
No, I get that.
because am I only looking for friends basically like am I and then it's like I had this like whole existential crisis too. I'm like, oh my god, am I that fucking guy? Am I that guy that's like only making friends with girls to date like you know what I mean like like am
You're
I
not the
that
only
creep?
person that I know that has like the mentality of like, you want to date your friends because like at the end of the day, it's important to know that the people that like you're going to be spending time with are people that you get along with. Which I think is like kind of interesting. Jay Scott brought up something earlier where he's like him and his wife are total opposites, and that's what kind of brings them together. But for me personally, it's always been like, oh, I find that I prefer someone who's like similar to me. So just kind of wondering, like, between you and Chat, like, is it that you find the opposite, like someone who's opposite of you, is really good for you, or is it that you're looking for someone that's similar? For me, it's like I'm looking for a good teammate. So like, it's not that I need someone to be literally me, but I want them to share enough characteristics that like we're sharing similar directions in life. But I don't know if that holds true for everybody, right? Some people want that
Hmm.
balance.
Yeah, I guess it comes down to like yeah, it's weird. I don't know that I've ever like thought. I guess I have to. I need to think harder about what, like, the kind of people I'm friends with. I guess is what really answers that question. Because to me, it's never been a like, um, I don't know, like, because I think about this too. When I dated, like when I dated that person I was friends with, on paper we were like complete opposites. Like when I dated her in high school, had like basically nothing in common.
Mm-hmm.
But there was like, but we were friends. I don't know how to explain it to you, but like when we spent time together, like we could talk nonstop for hours. We could always have a good time. The banter was always good. And I don't know if I could explain to you, like,
No,
we
that's
never
fair,
ran out of things to do together,
and
right?
that's
But
good.
on like paper, we're like complete opposites.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't, maybe like we overlapped like half a music genre in terms of like common interests, but somehow we never ran out of things to talk about. And that was weird. I was like, how the fuck did I do? Like, how did we date for like a year and a half before anything like came up? Where like maybe this won't work out long term. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I don't know. It's just like interesting. So, and then I guess to juxtapose that, Candace, who I'm dating now, we're like, we have our differences, but we overlap in a lot more ways. And I've noticed that as well. It's like part of our relationship is we've definitely kind of like, um, the biggest place we overlap is in our open-mindedness
Okay.
and kind of that exploration to try new things. And indirectly, that has caused us to be more similar,
Mm-hmm.
just because anything the other person is excited about, we're now more likely to bring into our own lives or try. And I
Huh.
feel like that's been like a two-way street. Like there's been a lot more of like I've gotten a lot more interested in like political science and like philosophy and things like that, where I used to be very, very like, and still am like hands off of that stuff, but now I'm like a lot more interested
Mm-hmm.
in like following political um like philosophies and like following what actually is going on in terms of policy making stuff. And that's something I got from Candace. Like she's very, very like for that. Like she wants to be a lawyer. She's going she's like vying for law school, and so like all of that stuff is very like important to her, and like even court cases and law and stuff and law in general. I've like developed an interest in that, and now I feel
Mm-hmm.
like that was something I didn't have before that now is part of it, so we're now similar in that way.
Also,
A lot
quick,
more of the like gaming side.
yeah,
But yeah.
quick interjection. Donovan's girlfriend is amazing, and she has a great voice. And actually, I've been sitting on a song that we've produced, so I'm probably gonna post that in the next week. It's funny.
Hell
I
yeah.
had no idea she was gonna be a lawyer, but like she's like very talented in so many ways, and I think that's actually wild. And it's probably because of like your mutual open mindedness that you guys just kind of pursue different things all the time.
Yeah. And but yeah, no, that I was just rambling, to be honest with you. It's more of the same. But
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like in that way. So it's like it's an interesting juxtaposition where I don't know if I'm looking for I guess I am looking for similar. I'm looking for similarities in terms of like mindset rather than like specific check boxes. I
Right.
guess if that makes
So
sense.
you don't actually like, I guess, care
I'm
about
trying to
like
catch a vibe. If I'm
fair.
being honest. And what does that mean? That's kind of up to interpretation. But really, I'm not trying to like yeah, like I'm not trying to tick boxes of like, oh, is this person, do we
Yes.
get along on these
Mm-hmm.
things? Does she like these things that I don't like? Are we different in these ways? It's more of a like, can we like, are we gonna understand each other on like that kind of fundamental like mindset level? And I guess it's like really fortunate that way that there's that very what do you want to call it? Like, yeah, I guess just like that mind, that trying, that open mindedness, lack
Right.
of a better word, is like a big part of what I think makes it so
Mm-hmm.
like natural. So yeah.
Yeah. So I think rather than the generic knowledge of opposites attract, it doesn't really matter what kind of person you are and they are, so much as that you guys kind of grow in the same direction. Firehouse mentioned earlier that like the partner you want 10 years ago is not the partner you want now, and I think that's very true. And it's probably more about the direction that you guys go together and the compatibility that you have, because it's more than just who you are on paper right away, right? It's about the way you guys interact, it's about the way that you build the life together, and of course all of the different types of chemistries that go along with that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
no,
agree.
for sure.
Relationships are whack. I like. It's hard, man. Like navigating this shit is crazy. I like want to. Man, it's so funny. I wish I was more like that's going back to like things that Candace is good at that I wish I was better at is
Mm-hmm.
her she does like so much writing, so much more writing and reading than I do. Given like what we're studying and even just in general, that's like where her passion lies. And it like shows in the way she's able to express thoughts and like articulate these kind of things too, which is something I've been like trying to pick up and learn. And it's like that's so important. Like it's just so weird how we get to these like positions. You have these like thoughts and ideas, and just trying to articulate this.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's like it's weird, right? Like going back again to like being an adult is like you kind of think you'll have all the answers, but you really don't. You just kind of go with what you feel and what you decide is probably for the best, right? And you just kind of figure it out as you go, and you have this facade that like, of course, this is exactly where I needed to be. Right? Like that's just kind of the way of the world.
Yeah,
That's fair. Oh, but I think this has been a really, really productive session.
I think so.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Got some notes for next time.
Yeah,
I think we're getting
absolutely.
to negative -0.5. Maybe we're graduating.
Yeah. Chat,
We'll need to manage the tangents. I'll need to
yeah,
manage how the English language works.
for sure.
Might keep a dictionary on hand for next time.
Yeah, chat, let us know, or even if you're just watching this off of YouTube, let us know if there's any topics that you think are kind of portrayed a different way versus how they actually are. Like, I know we went on a lot of tangents today, but we talked about how, like, being an adult is portrayed as, like, a nice, tidy box thing, and how relationships are kind of taught to you to be a certain way when really it's probably healthy to be more of a partnership rather than, like, a give and take situation. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me this week, buddy. This has been a
My
lot of fun.
pleasure.
Yeah.
It has been.
And we will see you all later. For those of you that are sticking around, we're going to switch it up to Firewatch, and we will absolutely continue chatting about everything you want. You guys have actually shown us quite a bit of interesting things about yourselves, and we will definitely be ready in future weeks for longer podcasts, but we plan to have a kind of like a shorter one today as our pre-pilot.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah.
We need to come up with a we need to come up with a system for this.
Yeah,
We
for
need
sure.
to figure out a good way to balance because I feel bad ignoring chat, and I also feel bad ignoring you because the only time I can read chat is when I'm trying to also listen to you give your opinion.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm trying to multitask, and it is hard, for sure.
So we can come up with we'll figure something out. But
Yeah.
I'm this is super dope.
Oh
It's
no,
super
it's
nice to
steady,
have like
buddy.
the people in chat and having everybody like
Yeah,
give
you
the
guys have had
feedback and stuff like
awesome
that.
input and have really like steered the conversation in some cool ways.
Yeah, no.
If you guys have any ideas of things that you kind of want to bring up, literally throw it in my DMs, throw it on the Discord. We'll be looking at that, and then we'll be back again next week. Donovan won't be there for all of it, but he'll definitely film a segment, and I'll have to bring out a guest. But actually, this has been a cool experience.